Hello and welcome back to the tiny home gym. I just wanted to make a quick video update on a few tweaks that I've made to this DIY belt squat using the lever arm from Titan Fitness, a spotter arm from Rogue Fitness, a couple of bolts, straps, things like that. So I'm not going to go over again the design of this because there's another video, you can go watch that. But I have made some tweaks since I made that video that has made this a little bit better. So, the first thing that I've done that's made this better is I changed the place, the height at which I mount the arm. So, in all the previous videos, I had this on a Rogue RML 390F. I had the pin in the second from the bottom hole where the west side spacing starts on this rack. It's going to be different on your rack. And I've moved it lower. All that you need to know is that the starting position of the arm now is at a slight angle with the end near you higher than the end on the rack. And the reason for that is this. As you begin, with the prior arrangement, it was pretty much horizontal and maybe even slightly dipped to start. So you're applying force on this end of the lever arm. And as you squat down through the range of motion, it's getting further and further away from your center of gravity. It's wanting to pull you forward, which means you're not exerting force straight up as much as you are back. And if you're squatting really deep, that arm can get to quite a bit of an angle. And so by by moving the starting position of this arm, you're buying yourself a little bit more time in that center position, right? So if you think this is my center of gravity, if it starts here and I start the movement, see that? Versus if I start it here and I move through it, it doesn't get to this extreme end range. So I'm not being pulled forward in the hole quite so much. This is something you'll just have to tailor to your rack, your height, things like that. So that's been changed slightly. The next thing that I changed was now that I don't have to use these eye hooks I had for my lat pull down system, I've moved them. So I moved this hook out. It was sort of middle of the arm here because I was using it for lat pulls and I wasn't changing it every time. So I moved it to the farthest position out on the arm, which allowed me to move these handles out, which is nice because now I have a little more space standing away from this arm where I can hold these rather than being really forward like this. The second thing I did is I stole the eye bolt from the other spotter arm I had and I put it in the top position, or in the end position on this arm. So now, rather than using a dip belt and scooping underneath and using this rubber stop, what I have is a belt with a carabiner on it, and I just squat down and clip right onto that eye bolt. That's going to be the next change. So this is a Spud belt. It actually is the belt that came with my rack-mounted reverse hyper. So it's not a dedicated belt squat belt, but it works okay. It works a little better than the dip belt when the weights get heavier. It's able to ride a little bit lower. So, as you can see now, the procedure is clip, stand, and then take the clip off. And now we're ready to go. As you can see, this arm is really close. It's about 4 inches from my groin right here. So it's nice and tight to my body. It's high, which is good because it buys me space in the body, right? So now you can watch the angle change of the lever arm as it goes through the movement. Now you see, I'm fully sitting on my hamstrings here, and the angle of that arm was not very extreme. So that's an improvement, and one that I would advise that you do. Especially because the purpose of a belt squat, contrary to what a lot of morons think, is to be able to drive a bunch of volume for your quads. so that you can sit forward into your knees with your back upright and load your quads without being able to do a good morning where you shove your hips back and then leverage it up with your back and your hamstrings. You're trying to fix, a lot of people are trying to fix that problem. I have weak quads relative to my posterior chain. So a belt squat is great, but if I do a belt squat like, I don't know, the Louis Simmons and the West Side guys, if you watch them, they're walking around like this with the belt. You know, they're in full anterior pelvic tilt, and they're squatting with their knees, not going forward of their toes. What's the damn point? Just put a bar on your back if you want to use your posterior chain. This is a waste of time. So being able to sit into the quads, being able to keep your torso upright is the point. And if the arm is swinging at too dramatic an angle at the bottom, then that makes that challenging to do. So anyway, that's pretty much it. I don't think I have any other changes. I did do a little bit here with this strap. I took and put 2 zip ties so that I tightened this loop around the collar of the top of this hitch pin. That way it's not, the hole in this is too big and it can slip out over this handle, and sometimes you have to deal with that. And so that just eliminated that concern. I don't have to deal with that anymore. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Change an angle, use an eye bolt for quicker access and a little sturdier connection with the belt. Switched over from a dip belt to a belt squat belt, and adjusted the handle position here. So, all right, those are some things that you might consider doing to your DIY belt squat.